1745. And we're going to be dealing with some Hearts of Iron 4. Now, why? Yes, and I see Arno is first. Good to have you here, my friend. Why 1745? Many of you know. There were a group of people called the Jacobites. Before they were called Jacobites, they were called Royalists. Before that, I don't know specifically if there was a term. The Stuart monarchy was the very ancient, even in their day, monarchs of Scotland that with Henry VIII not producing, well, he did sort of produce, I believe, one that died young male heir, but mostly women, and that didn't go so well. Oh, Elizabeth actually worked out rather well as a monarch, but now there's all kinds of weird rumors, but probably she just was using who am I going to marry for so long that became her strategy. She did not have any children. And hello, Toyjet. Good to have you here. And that, it's no children. And then the Stuarts, who had married somebody back a generation or so before, that put them next in line for the English monarchy, became monarchs of England, and then heavily because of their exile in France during the interregnum, which means, and I'm sort of doing this to give people a chance to gather for helping me out with the task. During Cromwell's ruling of England, and hanging out in France so much, they became Catholic. They were kings of what had been, or was very much, a Protestant country that eventually, and at first, when he was still a Protestant, James, who would become James II, had a wife and had 2 daughters. But once that wife died, and then had a second wife who was a Catholic, and a son who was probably going to be a Catholic king, there was a bit of a revolt and invasion by the damn dirty, stinking Dutch that invaded England and conquered England, and sort of put one of his daughters on the throne, but she was married to that damn dirty Dutch guy. And then because he was now in exile and his name was James, Jacobus, Latin for James, they became known as the Jacobites. And in 1745, we'll get to that in just a moment, Toyjet, that was a Jacobite rising, a rebellion, if you will, from lawful authority to restore a more lawful king, right? Which, because they had brought, that it really got bad once they brought the German kings over, and the current king of England is a descendant of those German kings. In World War I, it was Saxe Coburg Gotha Hanover, or whatever the family was named, and then they changed it to Windsor because, patriotism in World War I. Okay, that's why Gamer 1745. All right. As Toyjet asked, which DLCs do I have already? And we'll get to that in just a moment. as you can see here, and I think I might be able to revert back to the previous version, unless I do so, this current game is screwed that we had here. It is no longer compatible. This has happened to me before because I play these games just for you on Saturdays right now, and so I'm not getting very far because I also do what I just had been doing, talking a lot and not playing. So, and this last game was just sort of started as a whim. And I go, am I going to start another game over? Do I play Germany again? And then I thought, well, do I get the DLCs? And then I started looking, and I figured it could become content instead of headache. So I decided to make it a virtue, and we will see about getting the games today and then installing and playing some with hopefully your help in deciding what games and what stuff to do with them. All right, let's switch over to desk view. Right, DLCs. Voyager asks, which ones do I have already? So we'll go down to the bottom of the list. Yes, the Sabaton music pack, which I cannot use for streaming. So I have that one. I know there's a second one here, but now I'm not absolutely excluding because some are cheap, but you got to sell me on it. Why I would get just purely a cosmetic, Axis armor pack or something, maybe. But mostly I'm looking at, and I'm not looking for South American national focus trees. Look, I think I know why they exist. And hello, Arno. Good to see you have arrived. You didn't hear me, I guess, talking about the damn dirty Dutch and how terrible they were or are. But I think they did things like that just to try to get sales in Latin America. Yeah, hey, my country has a national focus tree. Let me, and wherever it is, let me get that. I'm not interested in flavor packs for particularly non-participants to slash such minor participants, like the Latin Americans. Pure flavor packs. I don't mind them. It's just I don't know that I want to spend the money on it. So, and then I have La Resistance, and then I have No Step Back. I did not get a Battle for the Bosphorus because these obviously were serious participants in World War II, but just hadn't planned on playing them at any particular time, and have by Blood Alone because these are expansions. And I think by Blood Alone is the last one because we have Arms Against Tyranny, which Arno is pushing to get, which is one that I was thinking of getting. Again, this is sort of the country pack kind of thing, and content creators pack, Soviet Union 2D art, whatever. Expansion, Hearts of Iron Gata Damarong. Now, again, country pack, Graveyard of Empires. Just watched a Pathé, and I will get to all of your advice here. Pathé, which was a newsreel company in Britain. If you know what newsreels, they were sort of like it was shorts of their day, maybe a bit longer than 60 seconds, but talking about the Iraqi revolt during World War II. So yeah, the sort of kind of, but I don't know that I ever plan on playing like Iraq or Afghanistan to really care about their national focus. Bonus songs probably would be okay in the sense that it would allow me to play it. I don't know if these seaplane tenders add any functionality, and it's $48. So I'm like, expansion pass. You got to sell me on why to get an expansion pass over, and I know it might have some good stuff in it, but as opposed to just getting that. Then we have expansion Hearts of Iron, no compromise, no surrender. Again, cosmetics are probably not what I'm going to do. And then peace for our time. At least they got it right. Okay, now let's go. I don't know. No, what did the fucking left government do? Oh no, damn dirty Dutch. No, they did this in 1688. Proved that they were damn dirty Dutch back then. And you guys haven't gotten any better since then. Yeah, there are several DLCs that add nothing. This is Toya saying, but focus tree content nations. Most of them are made by Paradox, but by and do generally not have any good reviews. Bosphorus is not at all needed. Good, thank you for that info. Arms Against is good, if nothing else, for Finland content for historical access and Soviet or USSR gameplay. Okay, so on that, if just, I'm not saying I'm not, but if I were never going to play Finland, it will improve either playing as the Soviets or playing as Germany. Is that correct? Okay, Gata is a must. Okay, thank you, Toyjet. That is, none of the cosmetics are needed, as you can get the same or better from mods. Yes. So Toyjet. That and Arms Against Tyranny. Yes. No Compromise, No Surrender is known for making Japan a mega OP hyper Asian federation. Okay. Now, okay, here, serious question. And I'm totally believing you. This isn't me doubting you. Is that a bad thing? And here's the thing. And some mods have very much tried to tackle this. From Hearts of Iron 3 to through all of my playing at least, of Hearts of Iron 4. Paradox has sucked at doing combat AIs. I want to state that. For something other than doom stacks moving around the globe. Meaning something like EU works pretty well because they can do that. That seems to be a decent combat AI. And so, particularly with Japan, it focuses everything on its war with China, which might have actually been a decent real-world strategy. But they get forced into the Pacific War, which is probably about the stupidest real-world strategy they can do. But unless you highly script the we'll call it the December 1941 expansion. I know it continues after that, but obviously attacking Pearl Harbor, attacking the Philippines, attacking Malaya as basically the opening moves, but then moving down into those damn dirty Dutch colonies down in the Dutch East Indies and Burma and other things. That Japan just does not do a two-front war well. And how to simulate World War II, how to get Japan to realize that they're in a quagmire of China, but that they should just sort of chill, hold what they have, and try to secure at least one of their major critical needs, and that being oil. their second major critical need of steel, there is no, I don't think, practical much that's much better than what they already got in getting the Manchukuo, because the Pacific Islands really don't have much iron to speak of, so that they don't, they don't alleviate that. But we can talk a lot about that. So if you're looking for a challenge for the U.S., and that's sort of the key. And you can go, hey, and I had definitely had a few people, not many, but a few people. And we'll get to the chats, Toyja. Don't worry. I know I'm not. I see you posting there, and I do want you to. So it's not in vain. One of the reasons I've long, even before I ever found Hearts of Iron, had very little interest in playing the U.S. is that they're sort of, the boss monster of the game. Whatever game, whatever game you're playing, they're the final boss to take down. And if you're having a reasonably well balanced to historical, not balanced as in this nation versus that nation, but balanced historically, to me the US is just too easy. You just try not to make too many mistakes in the first year, and then it's just deciding where the hammer blows are gonna fall, and just start, whether you're gonna go Pacific or Europe first, or you're gonna do the historical, take North Africa, or you're gonna, hey, let's take Norway this time, just to, get air bases up in Oslo to bomb Germany much more closely. And that would have been an interesting thing. Depends on when you do it. I think you could have done it. And I think it could have been very interesting to do. At about the time you did Torch. Now the question is knocking it, because Tunisia basically functionally knocks Italy out of the war. So that's probably a better strategic goal. But it would have been very interesting to take out Norway, which would also much more secure the shipping lines into Russia through the north. So that would have been a very interesting thing. And let's see what Toyja. And hey, Niagara, get all the DLCs. Well, that's probably not what we're hoping to do here. And hello, Robert Coleman. Good to see you here. And okay, another one of these names I got to try to figure out. Lento Connie Suki. Okay, I'm just going to call you Lento. Why wouldn't you play Finland? That's a good question. Why wouldn't I play Finland? Because Finland. This. Finland. Okay. In all my playing of Hearts of Iron, well, we'll just stick to Hearts of Iron 4 at the moment. Of all my playing of Hearts of Iron, from being as part of the beta testers, again, for people who don't know, I was one of them. To this day, I've always thought Hearts of Iron 4 is badly broken. It does not play well as a war game. It has wonderful features, but it doesn't play well. But a well done war game of grand strategy, this whole planet here of grand strategy, Finland has no real impact on who wins or loses World War II. And so it's not because, and this may be very well be, I don't think so, but you're always in your own bubble to a degree. I don't think this is because I'm an American. I think this is because I often play Germany, which is obviously America's natural enemy in all of this. So it isn't because I studied Germany, and I have for depending on who you are, but I know longer than Toyjet or Arno have been alive. The What they could have done that might have had a seriously different outcome. Not necessarily Germany conquering the world, but Germany, National Socialist Germany surviving World War II. That kind of thing. So countries like Poland, Czechoslovakia, Finland, playing those as part of a grand strategy game holds extremely low interest for me. Not zero, like playing as Brazil or Mexico. With how, yes, you can pay me. Hello, Slytherin Matrix. They pay me to play games. Paid me to play Broken Arrow yesterday. Okay, they pay me to play games. You could pay me to play Brazil or Mexico. And if this channel, if I thought it would make it a success by playing one of those countries, or El Salvador, or whatever the hell, play one of these countries, I would, because I wouldn't hate it. But it's just holds no interest for me. Okay, well, now Finland is a major, is a participant that's it's significantly active during World War II, and particularly in the European theater. It has the Winter War, and then it has the Continuation War, and then it has the I don't know. Is there a good term for the stab in the back war when they go to war with Germany and fight the Germans? So it fights in essence three little wars throughout it. It could have made a bigger difference if it tried to go beyond these borders, because they never go beyond these borders. They allow the Germans to attack out of Finland, but they do not ever attack out of their original borders. Probably, and looking back at it, good strategy. They survived World War II and wasn't conquered by somebody else. So I have very little interest, not zero, but very little interest in playing as Finland in this game. Now, if we were going to talk about a tactical war game that was fighting out the Winter War, or even the Continuation War, whether it's like in Panzer Corps or War in the East, which is another great game, but just a scenario based around Finland. Not the whole Eastern Front, but just okay, we're just playing as what's happening in Finland, and it might, for something like War in the East, it might have both Finland and Germany operating here, and you're playing just a localized game. That would hold interest for me, because it's sort of what Finland did, in that you're having the challenge of the tactical challenge of fighting this tactical war. But we're really looking at, global war, and Finland's just a side player at best. So I hope I answered that. And that goes for the Netherlands, Belgium, Poland, Spain. You got the Spanish Civil War. That would sort of interest me as the Spanish Civil War. And I haven't played it, but there's I forget whether it's Matrix or Paradox. They're basically the same company, if you know. Recent game, which I have not played yet, that's a Spanish Civil War game that's pretty detailed. Looks pretty good, but it's a bit of a learning curve, and I just haven't jumped into it. So, but that's sort of an isolated thing. Is just playing the Spanish Civil War. It's not playing the 36 through 46 grand war. Just you play Spain, you get Spain over with, the Spanish Civil War, whichever side you want to play, and then you go, okay, I'm done, and that's of interest because it's a contained thing. But I have, again, very low interest in playing it through the rest of the World War II because, again, Franco, there are winners in World War II. The U.S. wins in World War II, and I notice I'm saying in World War II because Britain and Russia just survive World War II. This isn't like, oh, they didn't do nothing, it's all the U.S. No. It's who comes out of the war better or than they went into it, or just coming out something of a success. Another winner of World War II is Switzerland. They have a couple of, and I will get more of the chat. They do have a couple of sort of aerial engagements in World War II, but they have one really small battle that achieves them victory. And they arrest the guy who wins the battle. David Frankfurter knocks on the company Wilhelm Gustloff's door in Switzerland. I think the door is opened by his wife. Well, he's not in right now. You can wait in his office. So he waits in his office, and when Wilhelm Gustloff comes into his office, he shoots Wilhelm Gustloff and kills Wilhelm Gustloff, and then calmly sits there and waits for the police to come and arrest him. And that is the one major battle that wins Switzerland World War II. Because Wilhelm Gustloff was a dual citizen, both German and Swiss. And his main job, and he was the main guy who was running the NSDAP's Ausland, meaning foreign office. He was in charge of not German or NSDAP foreign policy or the government's foreign policy for quite some time. Why is it always the names I'm trying to pick out? Why does Gamer blank on proper nouns when I try to call them up? What's this? Damn. Okay. I need my crutch. We're going to go back to menu because I know it's right there. Don't worry, we're not playing. We're gonna pick the games, and I'm gonna buy the games, and we're gonna install it. Yes, start. As soon as I see it, I'm picturing the guy's face. Did you one of the maybe in the chat you've already been screaming his name. Joachim von Ribbentrop. I didn't. Yes, the wine merchant. While and again I'm starting to Konstantin von Rath. He was Germany's foreign minister for a time, and Joachim von Ribbentrop was the NSDAP's foreign minister. But Gustloff Wilhelm Gustloff, was the minister for Germans living outside of Germany. That was his brief. And he very much, and I did a deep dive into the whole German-Swiss thing way back when, he was the one that was pushing the National Socialist movement. And there were multiple parties. It was a fractured movement, like they often are, in Switzerland. But when he's killed, that there's nobody left in the hierarchy, the Nazi hierarchy, that is pushing that. So it becomes not a big issue for any of the time, and Hitler's distracted. Hitler wants all Germans to be within the Reich. He was not going to allow long-term Switzerland to be an independent country. That was not going to be a thing. But it becomes not a, front and center. Where he has, for some reason today I'm blanking on it. No, I don't think it's a memory problem. Conrad, what's his name? For some reason, Conrad Adenauer is popping my name, but that's not it. The Sudetenland guy. Henlein. Is that it? Henlein? Whatever. Is pushing, Czechoslovakia to get the Sudeten Germans in and all that stuff. So Switzerland wins with this one battle. Now, they don't really have the death penalty at the time, so David Frankfurter gets prisoned for life, and sometime in 1945 he is pardoned and let out because Germany is no longer a threat, and Switzerland realizes that although they don't really shout it too much, he's a national hero. And then he immigrates to Israel and is part of forming the wonderful Israeli government. And so, yeah, he heads out there. So that's, the one important battle. Kills one person, saves Switzerland. But Switzerland wins World War II by mostly not playing. Okay? Same with Sweden. It wins by not playing. Spain, Spain's in a very precarious position. They're very dependent, mostly on Italy, but secondarily on Germany for their victory over the Republicans. Now, wouldn't have needed all that had mainly the Soviets sent so much aid to the Republicans. So, and, strategic position like Gibraltar and other things, Hitler needs. So, when Germany's ascendant, I'm sorry, I'm sure you guys are making really great comments. So when I look up, there better be great comments new. When Hitler, needs Spain, Franco is smarter than a lot of European leaders currently. And he says, "Yes, Herr Hitler, I will join you in the war, but here's my shopping list of needs. I need all this food because we're short of food. I need all these raw materials or refined materials, steel and whatever. I also need all this equipment. I need all this stuff." And so Hitler leaves with this shopping list and going, my fucking God, I can't afford to get Spain into the war. And so it wasn't, it's saying yes, but with conditions that make it a no, without him saying no. So it's without him, whether you want to say stabbing him in the back, or without him looking like, well, maybe he's really, really more pro-ally, so I got to invade him to protect ourselves. No, it's like, hey, Franco, buddy, he's a friend, but yeah, he's in trouble, and I got it, It's like I don't know, you got a friend who yeah, hey dude, I'll help you move. You just gotta come and pick me up. Well, where are you? I'm 3 counties away, and you gotta drop me back at home. Yeah, my car isn't working right now. I'd love to come and help you move. I'll help you move this weekend, but each day you gotta drive an hour and a half each direction, and yeah, and I'll help you move. Oh man, no, 3 hours. No, I need that time to move. So it's saying yes, but in a way that uh, turns out to be no. So Franco, because Franco is in power until 1975 and he dies, and he reestablishes the monarchy, which yes, the current Spanish government is going crazy left wing. I think it's going to have a very hard pendulum effect with the Spanish people that a lot of the moderates will go, oh shit, we can't have this. He's just the lefties are really destroying the country, but you're not having the physical violence that the left wing was doing in the 30s in Spain when they were in power, using anarcho terrorism um, to try to rule Spain. They're not doing that now. So Franco wins World War II, and he is as well as winning the Civil War, which he did not start. Yes, the general's junta start. Well, they also kill the Republicans kill off the main leader of the conservatives, shall we say, faction in Spain. So that might be considered starting that assassination. Could be considered starting it, but whoever. Franco comes in after the thing becomes a civil war because he's in internal exile out here in the Canaries. He's sort of under pseudo house arrest out there and not allowed anywhere else, so he's and heavily watched. So okay, let's get back to looking at this. Sorry, this is what Gamer does. Lots of that. Okay, so I don't know, and I'll get to your comments about overpowered hyper East Asian Federation. And I believe you can disable a DLC if you wish to, if I don't want to have that in there. Okay, yeah, Robert Coleman says, got the Damarong. Yes, that is definitely on the very likely list that I'm probably going to get today. And again, for those that are showing up here, I'm planning on buying these and installing it, at least starting the game and looking around. We'll see how far we get. Okay, they can and will conquer and gain cores on all of Southeast Asia, which again is, they got a lot of it. Thailand was sort of a, oh shit, they're going to steamroller me. Might as well sort of join in. Okay. Now for the Finland stuff, I would say yes. Okay, so we're looking at probably getting the Arms Against Tyranny. Okay, yes, it's looking good for that. But it does improve China somewhat. Okay, I guess we're talking about the no compromise, no surrender. They can and will conquer. Okay, we were already sort of there now for the Finlands. Say yes. Okay, also adds a bit of flavor for Operation Weserbung for the Germans. Yeah, again, this is something that the game, and again, I have not played in my last playthrough a Weserbung option, but the game has some difficulty in doing some of the real world being able to invade kind of thing. So yes, some mechanics and the Danes and such. Okay, and also I am planning to do another unmodded playthrough. After that, I plan for Hearts of Iron 4. I may play some other games too, but mostly looking, and this is one of the main reasons I don't really care about the flavor mods or DLCs, is because I plan on playing mods a lot. So, oh hey, cool focus tree, not used with Black Ice or some other mod, Total War or whatever. So, yes, but okay. Peace for Our Time, Graveyard of Empires, Trial of Allegiance, Battle for Bosphorus add nothing to the game other than focus trees that are known for being either pretty useless or hyper OP if you're playing. Okay, so we don't need Peace for Our Time, which is the new one. At least they got the name right, Paradox did. Graveyard of Empires. Okay, Battle for the Bosphorus. Yes, hello again, Niagara. We're going through Lapland War. Okay. Hello, PJKJ 1997. You lovely Germany. You love it. Do it. Have a nice stream. Well, thank you. I guess you may have already. Um, you can turn it on and off, right? Okay, so let's. I'll tab back over to this. Okay, so we're thinking Arms Against Tyranny. We're thinking Götterdämmerung. We're thinking No Compromise, No Surrender. Is that to get essential functions again, like we've talked about? I don't need the flavor packs. Are those the, what is it? 1, 2, just 3 here? 1, No Compromise, No. Oh, 2, 3. Arms Against. We got By Blood Alone. We have, hey, Turnlow, we do have Blood Alone, By Blood Alone. That's in the library. That we already have. I have that. I have No Step Back and La Resistance. So I have those. Those are in the mix already. Because again, mostly I play for mods. Okay, and my opinion is total must. Arms Against is pretty high on the list, and No Compromise last. Okay, so I think we'll get, because right now there's a sale on, just happens to be, and I need to update the game one way or another. So let's come here. Let's add to cart. Continue shopping. Go back. And add to cart. Continue shopping. The rest are not needed, and you can find something as good, if not better, with yes mods. Cotter is fun. It adds special projects than base patch. Yes. Up to. Okay, so we got these 3. Okay, let's go to my cart. Okay, now, let me come over here. And your screen has gone black. I know that. Hopefully I will get it. Come on. If I do this. To do this. Hold, yeah, don't be afraid of the dark. Also super railroad gun. See if by restarting Hearts of Iron. Oh, now it wants to. Oh, it's just a short. Now, sometimes when I switch between game and stream, it doesn't want to play well, or game and desktop. Not exactly sure why. this thing up. Let's off here. Okay, well, let's get you a better picture to look at while we're doing stuff here. Okay, let's go to continue the payment. I just don't know credit card information or something I don't want to put up on screen. Is my serious problem in that. Okay, so those 3 DLCs. Lights are back on, yes. If you pay for these, you are back. I don't know. Just Jerry Game. Hello. Just Jerry Game. Good to have here. I'm a sucker for sales. Okay. As I expected, there is a little bit of information on it. Not on your screen. I do not want to have to change my credit card or something because it goes out on stream and I have to immediately cancel it before, not you guys, but somebody else would come along and do bad things. I picked up a few guns Thursday. All right. Good, yes. Sale and then purchase. Okay, we are purchased. So we are going to go. And hello. In Cedar. Want to play Poland? No, I don't want to play Poland right now. Okay. We're going to play Germany again here because we play that a lot. Okay, let's come back to Huts of Iron. Here we go. Screen. Right. Okay, so what we need to do is back to menu, quit, stop running. Hitting this will make it update. Yes. Starting to download. Maybe that's good already. Well, it's fast download, or is it everything just already downloaded and they just unlocked it? Is probably what the thing is. You're just going to play around with them. The monthly subscription is not a bad feature. Test, figure which DLCs you like. Yeah, I'd rather sort of. I know it's still not really owning the games, meaning Steam can decide to F you and take it all away and not give your money back. Hey, Thomas, how you doing? Recently bought a TR Troya and TW Attilia on sale. DLCs cost are driving me nuts. Okay, that'd be Total War. Okay, that's though has just gotten out of control. Well, okay. I'm thinking, has it gotten out of control? Well, the proverbial pay for horse armor, yeah, that is out of control. I am used to a world because, see, I'm old, and not only being old, I've been involved with computer games going back, as in playing them and buying them and whatnot, not making them so much, but going way, way back to when there was just an Apple II computer, and even before that a bit. So, you were lucky. I do mean lucky if the game you got had some sort of bug fix after release. Any new additions to the game um, most likely meant version 2, version 3, version 4, which you were buying of that game. Okay, I don't see the arms sale stuff here. The iron. Okay, what we're gonna again, let's exit, and I want to make sure that um, stops running. Oh, starting download. Okay, yeah, updating. Yeah, I wanted you to do this. Updating. Yeah, update. Ah, total wear. Look at Paradox players with envy over the DLC model. The two handshaking. Best view. Oh, we got a bot over on Twitch. If Arna wants to take his sword to it, we are not old gamer. We have lots of XP. Yes, yes, lots of XP. I've got lots of XP, Niagara. Yes. Um, so I miss the days of gold editions or deluxe editions that didn't cost the world and included all DLCs and probably just spoiled pastimes. Yes, Thomas. Yeah. Now you can do that because now it depends on the game company, but Paradox, once it announces Hearts of Iron 5, you can get Hearts of Iron 4 and the whole bundle package for probably something pretty cheap. I know you can get Hearts of Iron 3 unless it, normally, or there's sales or whatever if you want to get that pretty cheap with all of its expansion packs. So if they're like they're doing with Toy 4, which is the game I've been paying attention to the most, at least, the Paradoxes, that they're giving a fair I don't know if we want to talk too much about for the dollar, how much it costs, but they are at least giving you something for the improvements. And like I say, in the olden days, and this is what, and even I did, oh, hey, yeah, you've taken away whatever in this new version of the game that was in Hearts of Iron 3. Well, what it is really, quite honestly, is the development cost is so much that if they were try to stick it all in the release game, the released game needs to either sell super massive amount of copies. If you sell enough of almost of a digital product, because it doesn't, yeah, it costs them to maintain a server or something. Okay, yeah, here we have the arms trade industrial market. It's not like having to make a physical product. You can charge a pittance for something if you're getting enough sales for it. But the expected sales for Hearts of Iron game, it's going to be a $200 game. Just truly, if you put all the cost into it and then release it all done, all polished up, all complete, feature complete, everything complete. And okay, it's out there. Have fun playing, guys. We're going to go make something entirely different now. And we're no longer going to work on it. Oh, if you find a bug, let us know. We'll fix it. If that's all you're doing, it's going to be a few $100s and people aren't going to buy it. So they do this DLC thing. Well, for various reasons, I burnt out on Hoi 4. So I didn't feel compelled to buy the DLCs when they first came out. I got the first expansion pass, and since things didn't go so well, they extended that without costing any more. They were very customer friendly. Okay, I mean, there's many probably very good reasons to hate on Paradox. Not going to say you shouldn't, but they were very, very customer friendly with Hearts of Iron 4 and particularly the first expansion pass, because I forget all the details of some of the problems they were having, and so they extended it longer for no extra money. And even just as they were announcing the extension, they allowed people to buy into it at the original price and get the whole extension. So, yes. Okay. And let's see. Best viewer, stream, middle button, bot viewer, Sloon, my lord. Okay. And reported. Good. Okay, like your hairline. Well, I'm sure my hairline has retreated a little bit. I'm sure of that. But I still have a full head of hair. Okay, so we are here. We have the industrial market. They don't even want to call it arms market. Okay. Now, let me look at this, see if it's familiar enough over what I've just been playing. Yes, that I can do this. I want you guys to help me walk through. And if we got an expert who knows this really well, I don't know, ToyJet maybe, we could jump on Discord, and if you want to talk me through playing some of these features, if we have somebody who really knows it, not just sort of kind of guessing it, for some of the stuff, we could do that. If you don't want to, oh, I know you were pointing at Niagara. But I have lots of XP too. Okay, so well, I guess we'll be better equipped to do one of those. Okay, you're saying okay, so way too much. Okay, so no, right, yes. No, we want to do that as soon as these up if you want to get these things done and cleared out. Focused instead of spread out over a lot of things. Do you play with IMOs in the last game? Or MIOs? I don't know that I did, Turnlow. I don't know that acronym. So that means probably not. And I do have this game for historical, the historical settings. Okay, let's get back to here. Well, because we have a rubber shortage, I don't want to increase things that cost rubber. We probably will need lots of rifles, so we'll just do that. And we have a few tungsten, so let's do that. Improved light tank is just steel, so we'll do that. Okay, so we're doing that. Now, I'm guessing still we should do civilian factories early on. Go to relatively high infrastructure areas that are under factoried and get some factories producing. The org that gives bonuses to equipment. I'm sorry, if you're talking these things, I did play with these a bit. But no, you've lost me a bit. Flampanzer, military engineering, super heavy howitzer requires the scientists to start. Do land. But I don't really want these, so I don't know. Super heavy, Schwer Gustav, yes. Okay. Facilities with unassigned scientists. Artillery specialist, Neil Becker. Edward Grote, tanks, special project speed. Okay, here's a question. If I were to put Karl Heinrich Emil Becker in charge of this, does that mean he's no longer going? Is he one of my generals currently? I don't know the name. I know there's a Becker who, but I think it's Arno Becker. No, Arno Becker was a sculptor. Who was the Becker? Was it this Becker who did the started the conversion program of taking French tanks and turning them into mobile anti-tank guns? I don't know. So I don't know that we're going to do any special projects right now. Take the Flame Panzer. Yes. You have to learn 2 new systems at least. And yes, I got a lot to learn. Hey, Jamnuska, good to have you here. Yes, this is why I'm hoping chat will help me through some of this stuff. Wilhelmshaven. Okay, naval headquarters. I'm not used to this. Oh, I wanted to look at. Let's grab 3 of these so I can look at here. I want to see if this Becker is currently in my. He is not, but let's. No, Runstedt needs to be higher level if and when we can get him there. Okay, like how Krupp and Porsche were tank designers in the government, they broke it and they made it so you can level up like 5 different military industrial organizations for tanks. Well, cool. Alfred Becker was the guy from France refitting old French equipment. Thank you, Niagara. Yes, thank you. I knew there was a Becker there, and then there's an Arno Becker who was a sculptor, and I don't know if quite a pal of Hitler, but he was one of the 2 main guests on Hitler's brief visit to Paris. The other one being Speer, who so Arno Becker was sort of Hitler's sculptor, if you will, and Speer was Hitler's architect. Obviously, Speer goes on to do a lot more than just be an architect and building site manager. So let's look here. So I'm saying so again, too much so. Another exclamative. I guess we could put Raider here. Look this. What does this do? Okay, Naval Headquarters. Potential max level Naval Headquarters 1. Current max level 1. Base state category max level 1, please. This building allows you to assign an admiral to increase the effectiveness of task forces operating within range of Naval Headquarters. Up to 3 headquarters can have an admiral assigned at the same time. A naval headquarters can only be constructed in a coastal province that has a naval base of at least 8th level. All right, so we have 1 naval base, and I guess we should maybe put Raider there. So let's close this. Let's come here and we'll put him there. Then we'll put, no, well, what? Or is this a, how do I get to that? Okay, oh, it didn't switch over to that. Oh, I thought I had. I did not. We'll put Lugens in charge of this. Okay, let's click here, Naval Headquarters. Let's put in Raider. Okay, that's what I intended to do. Just taking a few minutes break from reading, so there's that. Well, as Becker is a relative common name. In Germany, there might be a legion of Beckers at any given time. And then how many Hans Beckers are there? Why don't we have any of those? Almost all equipment have at least 1 minnow that can be applied to it. I still haven't found minnows. Or is these minnows? No. Well, once you figure out no bonuses, you know which minnow, since they all do something different. Okay, I'm still lost on what you're talking about. These, okay, 14 days. You have to click on the production screen. Okay, I can do that. You can walk me through. Production screen. Still don't. Click on the item in the build list, right? Okay. And we do the new here for new one. Is that what we're talking about here? click into the sidebar. I think this is what you're talking about. Then the wrench and gear button. See a wrench here. Are you talking these? Create variant. Here, are you talking that? No. Oh, okay. 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 I found this. Thank you. Or the variant button. Okay, let's start new here and variant. Okay, military industrial organization. So we have Karl Walther and Mauser. So if we want, okay, so that increases soft attack. Fascinating, fascinating. Thanks for this information. So if I were to come here, designed by Daimler-Benz. Okay, let's like this. Let's come to artillery. Only have Rheinmetall. Wow, this is something I got to dig into. So let's do something simple. Let's look here, look here, and support equipment. Okay, Mauser. So we have Mauser. Carabiner 98, I see up there. All right, now I'm starting to understand this better. Henschel. There. Okay, I'm understanding this much better now. Industrial organization. So if I want to specify here, we're Focke-Wulf. None of those seem to have any bonuses currently. Details. Okay, so coming through, and I'm going, okay, so because I'm fascinated by this. They each have their own skill tree, giving you gain XP through using IMOs to build or complete research. I'm making dinner. See you later. Okay, thanks, Niagara, for hanging out for a while. You should be able to click into an already going line and choose an INO. If none is assigned, click on the Details tab. All right. Well, this is brilliant. So for Rado, small planes, and light aircraft, and then this is like mutually exclusive. Now, does doing this take away from other research, or is this their own internal research for the company? I'm going to have to get a Coke. I will be back. Almost back. The screen breaks down the type of equipment that Minnow can apply their bonuses to. Okay. Stable platforms, mobile limbers. Okay, yeah, I did a breakdown of German artillery of their basic, 105 millimeter artillery or 100 millimeter artillery, whatever it was. And I looked at that what Germany produced leading up to from like 1936 until the end of the war. And all of the game here that is, oh, hey, next one, more power, more power. Only one development in German artillery during World War II for the 105 field guns gave it more power, made it more powerful. And that was literal, actually making the charge. And you needed a new gun to handle, that handled new ammunition. The charge more powerful, so it shoots more distance. Which, a gun in place that, say, can shoot 5 miles has a certain amount of power. A gun that can shoot 8 miles has more power because you can engage more targets from its single position without moving. So it is more powerful. All of the rest of the improvements, using air quotes, whether they were or not, were one of two improvements through the war. It was either to simplify production, so it might not be any improvement. It may even be a downgrade. I'd have to look back at it. Not necessarily serious ones, but downgrade in performance, but made it cheaper to produce. That was mostly what they were doing for their models. The other thing that they did do some was to make them a bit lighter so you could move them easier. And I can see how that might sort of like, again, instead of one gun being able to hit more targets in its position, move from point A to point B. But it wasn't a lot. It wasn't like going from, oh, well, hey, you needed 2 big vehicles to tow to one vehicle. It wasn't some dramatic change. It was just, oh, hey, it's a little bit lighter. Oh, and also easier to produce. So it was mostly taking, this gun, the Lichtfieldhaubitze 18, which all the guns started with 18 because they were just designed in 1918. Yeah. And through the war, it was mostly manufacturing improvements. Like I say, there was one phase that gave it an extra, 10, 20% range. So this sort of progression that Hearts of Iron and its design policies, I would say, is mistaken. And I looked just specifically in the details at German artillery because I have packed away right now a good book on covering all of German's all of German's arms, and I have another very good book covering all of German's mobile arms. So, and I think that's with most of the nations. There isn't like we can see a current whatever model of M109, the Americans' mobile artillery, with their 155 gun version, the Paladin, versus the 109 that was used in Vietnam. They're extremely different beasts. The modern 109 with its 155 gun can shoot much further than the original. It's, there's much power, if you will, battlefield power effectiveness upgrades over that time period. There wasn't a lot of that for most of the nations. So I guess, and we're just still experimenting, mobile limbers or more stable platforms, so defense, breakthrough more. We like that. Okay, is this already been done, or you? I don't know. What? I should probably watch somebody's YouTube video on how to play all this. I probably will before next weekend. You just select tree should be the bottom of the artillery is quite interesting and often overshadowed by infos on tanks and planes. Oh, absolutely. But there's a lot to artillery. You have which there's a lot to tanks, obviously, because we readily see that there's a lot to tanks because we see the tracks, the engine, the gun, the armor, the crew compartments. That's all a lot, obviously a lot to it. And where we just normally see, hey, a barrel tube, some wheels, some, trails, or the, things that go out from behind the gun that hold it in position, or you hook it to the, to a towing vehicle, those parts. That's traditionally what would be called the trail. You just sort of see that and you think something simple, but you really do have a full system there with its not just the gun but also the rounds that it's shooting. How good is the fuses in the gun? Americans. One of the reasons we had 75 millimeter guns, or probably the primary reason the Americans had a 75 millimeter gun in their tanks, was because we had a bunch of leftover French 75 millimeter guns from World War I. And we were going, hey, let's use these thingies. And we did use some of the original, leftover World War I guns. But we also built lots and lots of new stuff. Well, our first tank that is produced with the 75 millimeter gun, it was the Lee. That's what the British called it. M3 medium, or whatever, very creative American name for it. The M3 medium, I believe, is close to its proper name. Was found to the shells wouldn't detonate well when fired. The high explosive type shells wouldn't detonate well, or wouldn't detonate at all. The British found when using them, and now they would detonate if you fired it at a vertical surface, like a side of a tank or side of a building, but they wouldn't detonate if they landed on the ground. So if you're like trying to shoot it at like a machine gun position or an anti-tank position and have it explode, often enough they wouldn't. But the British found, because the British um, had invaded Syria, which was French controlled, sort of kind of Vichy, not heavy Vichy, but the French did fight there. They captured a bunch of the French 75 millimeter rounds. Well, the uh, the British learned that you could just take the fuses off of those 75 millimeter artillery rounds and put them on the 75 millimeter tank rounds that the Americans were using, and they would just fit, and those would just detonate because they were made right. The Americans eventually corrected the problem to a different version of the shell, but so yeah, just the mere fact that you have like a 75 millimeter howitzer or something doesn't mean that it's equal to somebody else's 75 millimeter howitzer. And there's a lot that go into these things. Yes, M3 Grant, Arno says. Yes. Yes. But the Americans, the creative title was M3 medium tank, or words to that effect. Sometimes they do tank, medium, M3, or whatever the hell. They liked it. Great YouTuber, great channel, The Chieftain, who does the armor stuff. He's always calling it the caliber 50. And yeah, I know that's coming from his military experience, but it's also showing why he's a foreigner. Because Americans call it the 50 or 50 cal. Trust me, I've been around a lot of soldiers, and they call it the 50 cal. Um, and so I don't know whether he's just trying to be pedantic and using the correct name, or whether he's Irish, which he is, obviously, and he just learned the military name for it, so he calls it the caliber 50. But when you're trying to convey to somebody else what you're talking about, saying caliber 50 slows down your information track, or saying caliber 30 or whatever. If you were to say 50 cal, that go 50 what? Oh, caliber. Okay, now we know we're talking about a machine gun quickly, as opposed to caliber 50, as opposed to caliber 30 or caliber, excuse me, whatever. So sometimes the Americans tend to put the least important information up front. So as your brain is trying to absorb what somebody is saying, especially like in a traumatic situation like a battle, you want to have the clues come in an order in which your brain will process the most important information first, and then the minimal qualifications. So 50 caliber, or whatever. 50. Oh, he's probably talking about, because just context. You might be telling, shoot somebody, as opposed to talking about 50 Cent the rapper or something. You're probably going to be talking about that, but confirmed with caliber. The 50 cal as opposed to caliber 50. It's just putting it in the wrong order. Okay, so I don't know how to. That's history. Units produced 1. But how do I shift click to add a completion queue? Great queue. Trait can only be completed by gaining funds from assigning to research or production lines. Okay, I don't understand this, and I don't know if somebody can easily explain this to me. I may try to watch a YouTube video on it. Because obviously today is not me playing the game to win. It's me looking at these new features and whatnot. Okay, market access 8. Oh. don't have. These always hurt my brain. Why do we only 1936? Okay, well, we cannot get to the Führer Princip until we remilitarize the Rhineland. It takes 35 days. Well, we can do Rally the Wehrmacht instead. Would be the Katadamarang tree inner circle. We can't do until we get to the Führer Princip. Expand the Luftwaffe, develop modern maneuver warfare. Okay, so this is still a lot like what we were just playing with in the last playthrough. Okay, I didn't, if this wasn't the last one, I didn't pay attention to it. So if I want to see industrial ones, see inner circle ones. Well, this is handy for trying to find something, maybe, if I'm looking at this. Okay, well, warrior plan comes a bit later. We're gonna do that. I guess we'll assign it here. Let's let this roll a bit. Maybe, I don't know if one of you guys knows, is there a good, and I do mean not just exist, but a good World War I conversion for this game? Plays the First World War. So did I play one? I think I did, but I'm not remembering well. And no, I don't mean Kaiserreich, the mod. Cool mod. It just, I don't mean that thing. You will get a pop up that you have a point to sign. Good thing you will get a pop up. You have a point to. Okay, so we'll get a pop up. But I am going to try to check out somebody else's game or playing info. See how this works. Because as you can tell, even with all my XP, I like that. Great War Redux. Hello, GP Funds. I think that's what I played. Great War is the only one that I can think of. Okay. Because as you guys have been hanging around, I've come to the realization that the most consequential, the most tragic, but definitely the most consequential event in modern human history however you sort of want to define that. Because obviously there's some, very consequential things that happened in the past, Oh, hey, taming a fire or whatever. Yeah. Um, but in sort of modern history is World War One, much more so than World War Two. World War Two does definitely affects, ideologies to some, which ideologies we have or what the borders are, all of that kind of stuff. Who lived, who died, all of that does get maybe more affected. But for society, I would say we're going to do the Fuhrer principle. Because I think I did some of this last time, but I'm pretty sure I did it later than I should have. That's what I was thinking. Great War is the only one. Yes. Again, I don't know the current developers of Hoi 4. And I never knew the other ones well at all. I'm not saying like I was their buddy, but especially Podcat, I had a lot of interactions. Meaning he knew who I was, and we interacted. In the beta test forums, that kind of stuff. Back and forth, and as part of the other beta testers too. But one of the people, so I understood one of their design philosophies with this game was choices. So it wasn't to like, oh, hey, I should have all of this. Well, you shouldn't. But I don't know that this current. I like the old cabinet of Hoi 3, to have like a foreign minister, a, industrial minister, person who's going to run your industry, because you may be starting out like the U.S. at peace with, there are industrial policies in the U.S. Definitely under FDR, there's definite industrial policies in the U.S. But even then, it's a fairly light touch, meaning it's still mostly laissez-faire capitalism. But there, and some of the policies are, often maligned Smoot-Hawley tariffs and other things that are happening that are affecting industrial policy, but a lot of those are coming out of the Congress as opposed to a minister running the thing. But definitely, as either you're ramping up to or once you're in the war, you're now centrally organizing industry, because look, capitalism works. I'm sorry to all you capitalist haters out there. I don't know of the perfect system, but capitalism has worked best and better than anything else humans have devised. Now, that doesn't mean we want to have rampant, unregulated capitalism, complete, total laissez-faire capitalism. That's going to an extreme that you don't really want to go to extremes. If there's anything more extreme than that on the, do whatever you want kind of extreme, I don't know of it, than sort of the idea of unregulated, unrestricted, laissez-faire capitalism. But basically, and I think it was when Khrushchev comes to visit the United States, and I think he's in Texas. And if I forget who the president was. Was it Lyndon Baines Johnson or who? I don't know. Comes to the U.S. And they're driving through, I think, in Texas in a store. And they're in, the president and Khrushchev, I hope I got this story mostly right. And they're driving along, and Khrushchev, sees a grocery store and wants to go in there. And so they stop and they get out. Because even to this day, if you, a non-scheduled visit, that, you quickly have the Secret Service fan out everywhere. It's probably pretty safe for heads of state. When Trump just appears at a McDonald's that's entirely unscheduled, he's pretty damn safe. When this last assassination attempt, it was at a scheduled event that the person knew about and was able to travel across the United States early enough to get a hotel reservation in that hotel. It's because there's a lot of people that will go to those events that are rich enough that they just sort of want to show up before the event at the hotel and get ready at the hotel. Whether it's take a shower, but get in their tuxedo, or the women get in their dresses that are tight fitting and whatever, and then just take the elevator ride down and then go through security. They don't want to have to travel very far. So I don't know how much spare rooms. Maybe it was half empty. I don't know, but it would probably fill up more. So had enough warning that Trump was going to be there, so that the assassin knew that the event was planned. But if Trump is just he's scheduled to be in Houston or scheduled to be somewhere, but he just rolls into a McDonald's, and they may even know 5 or 10 minutes before, and the Secret Service just, flood the zone. Yeah, he's pretty damn safe. It's, or if they want to schedule the thing, like when they did admittedly it was the stunt, but had him work the takeout window and, cook the fries or whatever. I do know for a fact all the people going through the drive-thru and making the orders were all pre-screened. As far as I know, they weren't plants, meaning like the government or the Republican Party or somebody else picked people to go through. No, they were just sort of like, I don't know how much in time beforehand, but they sort of signed up to go, and it was known to happen. And so they just, I don't know how exactly they picked who was going to go through, but all of those people that were going through the drive-through were pre-screened, and the Secret Service were checking out the cars to make sure that there wasn't uninvited guests or whatever in the cars going through. So it was, it was a stunt. It was an orchestrated event. They weren't going to have a Trump hater, or one that they could detect at least, drive through the and at that time, remember, he was still just a candidate. He was a former president, a candidate for office, that it wasn't overly sure who was going to win. So they scheduled that. So back to Khrushchev gets out and he sees the grocery store and he demands to see the guy in charge of food production, not the guy in charge of this grocery store, but the guy the minister in charge of food and all this stuff, because how bad it is in the Soviet Union how to do it, and they have trouble explaining to him that there's no one in charge. It's crowdsourced. It's the crowdsourced information of the people, of capitalism, of what brands to buy, what brands not to buy. And of course, the companies are promoting themselves up with advertising and all this other stuff. And so there's a lot goes into it. But it is the best system humanity is yet to devise. Compared to that, central planning sucks. But when you have basically one customer, being the government. I know there's a lot of sub-customers. But when you have one customer, whether it's the German government or the American government, the British government, you in essence have to come to centralized planning, because you're no longer crowdsourcing. Oh yeah, you have some committee on submachine guns that, the different companies or whatever provide examples of, and they run around and test them for a few hours. But it's a single source buyer for at least most of the stuff. And because things are stressed out, because I know Arno, and I got to get him his book on the Johnson rifle. That is, and they sell some of those to the Dutch government. But they still have to get approval for things like the steel and whatnot from the centralized planning. And so, yeah, that is probably a capitalistic venture as opposed to a more lend-lease, like all the Springfield bolt-action rifles that we were still making in World War II. Very many of them were sent off to China. Well, that's all part of our centralized planning, not just the exiled government of the Netherlands looking around for some modern weaponry, seeing that probably most of the M1 Garens are being, absorbed by the standard military. Like, oh, hey, yeah, you can produce us a few thousand of these for our, our forces in exile. Okay, great. Yeah, we'll buy those. But they still have to get, steels and whatnot from the central planners. So you no longer have a market function. So you have centralized planning. So having a minister or a de facto minister, could be a bureau or whatever, that in charge of production, and the guy in charge of foreign policy, and the guy in charge of, as they did with the different cabinets that they saw. And then you have a selection of who you want to put into that office. I like that better than this, or I meant to click here, or this with just 3 of these, because we can go. You don't have both a Speer and a Todt in charge of production. You don't have Hess or Bormann in charge of the party. You don't have Constantine van der Roth or here or Ribbentrop in charge of foreign policy. You pick one, even though they both may be working in foreign policy stuff, but you pick one to be in charge. So I like what they've done, but they haven't done it well enough, is sort of my statement. Okay, and what did Thomas say? The Europe of today is in many regards still Europe created by the Franks and Europe adopting Christianity around the same time. Weird to think about that. Oh, absolutely, Thomas. You are absolutely correct in your understanding of history. And I don't mean specifically, the Franks with Charlemagne or Charles the Great in English. And he does have a lot of effects that are still felt today. But it is absolutely, and I see history as sort of I'm just, as many of you know, I got sick last year, and a good chunk of last year was sort of a wash for me. And I'm still recovering a bit physically from it, but I'm also recovering mentally. So I'm going and shooting 2 or 3 times a week and doing other stuff. But I really need to move into my house that's half finished with being remodeled. And I'm going to have a studio room and put up there. But I have one of these that was made a while ago, a flow chart of history. That's a big poster thing, the big long poster that I'm going to put up in the background. I see history as both in a multi-dimensional flowing tapestry with threads. I see, so one is one path is the timeline. Then it's sort of like a carpet or other sort of threads that are threaded through it, that flow along it, starting and stopping and interfering with other threads, pushing them this way and that way, and weaving into, like two, you can imagine 2 different colors of thread coming together and weaving together, and then making a different, a third color that they're neither of the first 2. That's both, horizontal and deep. That is sort of how I see history. I may be over exaggerating that, but that is how I see history and flowing. But I was doing a lot of the strategic command war games in World War I, and talking about how traumatic World War I was for us, and without having to go back and go over all of it. And I've yet to come up with a the best word, though it was Dino who helped me a bit. We used to have the human touch in government. The personality was more important than the ideology. And this is something World War I we lost. It was already being eroded, but we've lost. We now argue over formulas and we're treated like cogs. We're treated as if, and yeah, we're talking about the first world here because this is the way most people see things. Well, most people, most men, most women could be trained to be an adequate architect. We could pound that into them through the sort of Prussian or German or however you want to say it school system that we've in the Western world have inherited. We could pound that into their brains, and so anybody can be an architect virtually. I mean, there's probably a few idiots out there, and I do mean that literal idiots, that couldn't, with enough pounding, enough help, enough whatever, to actually, not cheat, but actually pass whatever qualifications, courses, and whatnot to be an adequate architect. And I don't mean just like drawing a building. I mean, figuring out the load stresses of what kind of, reinforcement you need, whether it's steel or wood or whatever, and actually be have the whole plans set out for a building, do that. And so we're treated as if we're cogs. That, sure, some people may have natural talents, maybe, but you can be anything, and this is part of you can be anything you want to be ideology, that if we just believe it hard enough, just work at it hard enough, if we really just did it, any of us could be a rock star. Fucking no, I'm sorry. Yeah, some rock stars are created through studios that are polished, but trust me, those people have the touch. They can, be the star. Not all of us get to be stars. We can't all be whatever we want to be. But they treat us like cogs, and we argue over formulas. Capitalism, socialism, democracy, dictatorship. What's your company organization plans? What's your company structure? If we just do the right organization, the right formula, everything will be fine, because in essence we're all cogs. So with just enough training, experience, education, anybody in that company could be the president. Oh, and it's just evil, rich, nepotist capitalists that really actually control it. So it's all the system is rigged because we're all qualified to be presidents or CEOs of companies. Bull fucking shit. We're not. And you can be an Einstein, and I would believe he is probably eminently unqualified to be the CEO of any significant company, period. Now, I don't know Einstein. I've never read a biography. I've seen some, 1-hour biographies of him on TV or YouTube or whatever, but I've never, read an in-depth thing. But I'm going, he's a brilliant guy. And yes, you could pound and mold him into being a CEO, but he's not really qualified to do that. And so we've lost that. We are fighting over, fascism or communism, and all treated as cogs. Well, I reject that. And it was World War I that put the nail into maybe the best term is the human touch. It doesn't mean that formulas don't matter. They do. This is, like I say, capitalism. But you can run capitalism very poorly. And I'm not saying people can't be molded into a basic level of what you need. But there are natural talents. And we've lost that. We've lost in our democratization of the world and our worldview. that there are just, and it is a little bit the reaction to the Nazis and their super race. It's not a race, at least as I see it, but there are genetics that individuals have. And yes, we can easily look at like sports stars. Yeah, I know they're juicing up and they're taking steroids and everything else, but I've known a lot of dudes that have taken steroids and were power lifters, but could never get near the, champion power lifters. Not that they were really trying, but yeah, and it's a performance enhancer. But you give me a bunch of steroids, and I ain't going to be doing what they were able to do. So, do you need any DLCs? We already bought the DLCs. Hello, Rally Not 5T. But we did get the DLCs that we needed earlier in this show. But that was part of the decision making. We had to figure out what we needed to get. So let's let this roll a little bit further. So yeah, World War One. And I've often thought Hearts of Iron would function a little bit better with its AI as a World War One game versus a World War II game. The Sultanate of Assa submits to Italian demands. Okay, don't know where that is. Where's the Sultanate of Assa? Is that down here or something? I don't know. I don't know. No, I bought them on Steam, but thanks anyways. I used to get them for free, but no longer. I did eventually buy the expansion pass. Debating over formulas seems pointless because the entire point of a formula is to use it when you need it. Well, you see, yes, GP funds. That's the idea. And it's not debating over, it's fighting over, meaning millions killed. It's not like, oh, hey, whether crowdsourcing your debate on Twitter or something, or whether it's two or three people, debating in whether in private or in front of an audience over a formula. But it's why when the U.S. tried to give the U.S. formula to Afghanistan and Iraq, of this is what the government should be, it's an utter failure. Because those people culturally are not set up for the U.S. formula. And the U.S. formula is not the way to deal with these cultures. The American, which I think is entirely stopped under Trump, but the American continuous pressure to democratize places like Saudi Arabia, like Kuwait, like Qatar and UAE, and trying to push for women's rights, push for all this stuff, as the government, I think is bad, is counterproductive. Because a culture like these cultures down here are going to resent a bunch of fucking foreigners telling them how to live their lives. Okay? Like I resent the Muslims trying to tell me how to live my life. They should resent Westerners telling them how to live their life. It's one thing to sort of kind of, if there's an internal movement, to sort of kind of highlight it. I'm not saying like pour huge amounts of cash or whatever, but it's sort of like, oh hey, yeah, they now let women drive in Saudi Arabia, hooray! Have a little sort of national acknowledgement of that kind of thing. Okay, because I'm an industrial first, we're going to do 14 days and get Reichleiter tote. So yeah, it's, and the only way and it's very much a Marxian viewpoint. You don't realize, you people don't realize how much, not just damage, but how much Marx has influenced um, society. And there are so many right wingers that are Marxists. And I don't mean communist. I mean Marxist view of history. You know, his whole synthesis, antithesis, blah blah blah, and oh hey, history is just everything economics. No, that he's entirely wrong. Marx got that whole wrong, and the whole educational complex and everything is all Marxist. Even my few conservative professors are Marxists in that viewpoint. No, at best, economics is in the top one of the top five, but definitely not in the top two or three motivations for history. Okay, now we got that. So we're going to let that sort of rock with that. I think I think yes. 4-year plan. Let's get Helmar Schacht running our economy here. So yeah, and this is why I've come to see World War One as the tragic war. And so and part of it, not just because I like talking about it on stream with you guys, but also part of the reason I play war games and such is to um, think about history. What we're going to do is we're going to increase this. Let's see, who do we want to buy it from? Uh, try the Dutch East Indies. We've increased the factories by 1 through construction here. So that will allow us to not have a deficit in rubber so that we can build things like aircraft more efficiently. These things. Okay, the federal state of Austria bans the DNSAP. Well, do realize the reason they banned them is because they assassinated the prime minister or the whatever you want to call it. They will not lose us that easily. Political power. Installs authors as an advisor. It cannot be fired. Becomes. Okay, well, we'll do that. Yes. Now, it really wasn't so much Seiss. Well, he's a big major player there. But the real magic was Constantine van der Roth. He was the one that really, you know, achieves the goal of working with the Austrians to get the Nazis to come to power there. Seyss Inquart is sort of the front man pushing from Austria, where diplomatically it was von Roth pushing things. Because unlike the fictions of today, Austria really did not want to be an independent country. They wanted to be part of the Reich. So much so that at the end of World War I, they joined in union with Germany. They were. And the Allies said, oops, nope, you can't do that, because they didn't want Germany to become bigger and stronger after World War I. So that was... And they never actually joined, but they declared union with Germany or whatever. And as soon as the Allies heard about it, they go, no, you can't do that. That'll be war starting again. And so they backed off from it. So it becomes, yeah, okay. So my tendency is always to do more of the industrial stuff, but I'm looking around because last time we started the war like a little over a year late or more, because I didn't do enough of the diplomacy and other. Yeah, okay. Don't know why reorganizing the Wehrmacht is putting Jakob von Ribbentrop in power. I don't get that one. But we do want to move down this progression. Now we're still just in 36, so maybe let's look over here at these autarky average position. Yeah. Okay, we'll do that. So I'm going to, in the coming week, hopefully study up a little bit more on some of the new features here, watch a few how-to. Why would they restrict themselves like this? The Second London Naval Treaty. And start the real game. This is just sort of taking a look at this today, and we're probably going to end here shortly. So everyone, come back next week when Gamer knows how to play better. And I still like your advice if you got any. Figure out how these things work better. Huh. And maybe the game won't change so much that we'll get a substantial way through it. And also, of course, come back tomorrow for War Thunder. We do talk about other things, and it's sometimes much better because we're on Discord and we can chat about whether it's the current world situation or the situation in Rome at 30 or 330 BC or something like that. You know, it varies in our topics of conversations while battling with tanks. So even if you just want to hang out and have us in the background of whatever it is you're doing, you can do so. Or if you want to join us and play some, that's also open. Oh, what was it? Was it last week or early this week? There was about like 8 of us all on a Discord call and whatever. And we almost thought about starting up War Thunder, but a few of us had to go. It just happened that we all happened to get in there. So hey, also check out our Discord server. Okay, turn low. Yeah, I think we're gonna stop this here in just a moment. So yeah, we might as well. Let's just save this just in case I want to come back and play this a little bit more at some point near future. But yeah, so I think we will call it a day. It's a little over 2 hours. I know it's a shorter stream than some, but hey, I started on time today. Okay, thank Turn Low, GP Funds, Really Not 5T, whatever, Thomas, Arno. I think Jamnuska's been here. Niagara went to go have dinner. Who else has been here that I don't want to forget? And acknowledge Just Jerry's Game. And anybody else Toy Jet. I've forgotten about Toy Jet. Wow. And Robert Coleman and Lento. Thank you all for hanging out with me for a little while. Hope you have a good day or evening. Yes, till tomorrow, Arno. I do hope you will show up and we'll kill enemy tanks. Yes.